right, we should be going live, and there we are. All right, hey everybody. Oh, VR's here. Great. Let me get you in here, VR. Let's see. Hey, Virginia Roots, how you doing? Virginia, can you hear us? Okay, so she should be coming in here pretty soon. But first of all, what I'd like to do is have everybody introduce themselves.
First of all, what I'd like
Sorry.
to do is...
Oh, is that you? Echo.
I'm watching comments on the thing, so I'm sorry.
Gotcha. So let's start with B at Life Done Free. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your channel?
Well, I am B from the YouTube channel Life Done Free. I'm also one of the founders of the social media platform freestudying.com. And I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I'm a full-time off-grid homesteader. And if you ask Tag, I'm permanently on vacation.
I get a little bit of that too. All right. And then VR, are you in here yet? Oh, wait. No, she's coming back in on another one. VR, are you here? She must be having some difficulties. I'm going to remove the first one. Sorry, guys. Hopefully she'll come in on the second one. Shelly, why don't you tell us about your channel and what you got going on?
Hi, I'm Shelly from Two Old Crows Homestead. I'm a wife and a mother. We have 5 daughters, my husband and I, and 7 grandkids. And then I work a full-time job, and I do homesteading, and I stay pretty busy. I make soap. Got a lot going on.
Nice. Hey, VR, can you hear us yet? All right, I'm guessing not. So today I started diving in, and the guy started it, and I started diving in to modern feminism, the different types of feminism, that kind of thing, trying to figure out where the disconnect happens. And like we were talking in the back room, there's definitely a disconnect. My daughter is 25, and there's a little bit of disconnect there between her and I, and what it means to be able to stay home and why you would do that and that kind of thing. And so let me start here. So we have definitions. Definition: a weak woman, lacking in physical or mental strength or force, frail, feeble, liable to yield, break, or give away, right? So then you have 5 signs of a weak woman. Do not be financially dependent on your spouse. Now, that floored me because that's just destruction of the nuclear family. Nuclear family is mom, dad, 2.5 kids, that kind of thing, right? Do not lose your identity. Well, as you grow, doesn't your identity change a little bit? You become a mother, you become grandmother, there's just different things and different priorities. Do not forgive every single time. Well, there's a divorce waiting to happen. If you can't figure it out and you can't forgive, come to a compromise of some sort, you got issues there, right?
Are you saying that in the definition it says do not forgive?
It does.
Oh, wow.
Oh, right. Oh, yeah. We'll get into the faith portion of this. Yeah. This is huge. Do not be too emotionally dependent on your spouse. And so if it wasn't for the fact that G and I were emotionally dependent during this move and changing homesteads and doing all of that, I think we would have just completely lost our minds. You have to be emotionally dependent, I believe, on your spouse. Do not make your partner your only priority. Doesn't biblically it say that you make your spouse the priority before your children? And so I thought that was interesting. And then it gets into a definition of a strong woman. She is not afraid to share her ideas and thoughts, regardless of what others think. I thought this was interesting because as a Christian, you do worry about what other people think. You don't want to offend, right? Shelly, we literally just had this conversation in the back room. You don't want to offend everybody. And so you have to choose your words carefully and, be mindful, right? Let's go back to Proverbs and all of that. And then let's see. She speaks her heart and her mind. She respects herself enough to stand up for herself. She causes, or her causes that believes in the welfare of others. Now, I just think that kind of contradicts itself, really. And so, if you're going to speak your mind, you don't care what others think, then how do you care for the welfare of others? Doesn't that contradict itself? What do you guys think?
I feel like a strong woman does need to speak her mind, but she also needs to understand who it is. Like I have certain people in my life that I do care what they think. My husband is one of them.
Mm-hmm.
My God is one of them. My children, I care about what they think about what I say. It doesn't stop me from speaking the truth.
Mm-hmm.
They don't always like to hear what I say, but I kind of feel like they can depend on me for the truth,
Right.
So I think that people just need to, I think women need to realize who it is, who those important people are, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
Not that other people aren't important, but you have to be accountable to those people that you love and you care about.
Right. What about you, B?
I think when you were reading that, I hear a lot of me, I,
Yep.
do what I want, what I, think is important, what I think is, I don't need a man. I don't need, I think that a whole lot of, strength comes from not falling for the propaganda, not falling for what you should be doing. I think that a strong woman puts her family first and puts her family first and her husband first, and doesn't uh, put them down in public, and doesn't talk down to them, and doesn't hush them, and doesn't put their hand up to their husband's face. I think a strong person is I think strength comes from service, and we provide, as a woman, we provide these services to our family and our husbands and the people that we're supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what makes us strong. It takes a strong woman to hold her tongue when she feels as though she's been, talked down to or disrespected, or
And dang, that's hard. You've called me on that a few times. It is hard.
it is.
Yeah.
It is. And doing the right thing is sometimes not the easiest.
Right. Sometimes we just have to walk away.
And you talked, briefly about Proverbs, a Proverbs woman, a Proverbs wife,
Mm-hmm.
That is something that we should all be
Guiding towards.
educated on.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
if you don't know what you should be doing, you're not going to do it.
Right.
If you've never been shown to be a follower, you're not going to follow.
Okay. Let me stop you right there, because I've got some more. So what are 4 types of feminism? So Alison Jagger defined from theories of feminism, and this was done in 1983. And so there's 4 types. You have liberal feminism, Marxist feminism, socialist feminism, and radical feminism, right? So are there anything in those 4 points of feminism that they're shoving down our throats since 1983? Actually, it's way before that. That's just when her article came out, right? Is there anything about that that's biblical?
No. I mean, I kind of feel like, for a long time, if you have, okay, so like the whole biblical structure of this is that you have, Jesus is the head, and the man is supposed to follow Jesus, and the woman is supposed to love her husband. Like, it doesn't say in the Bible that the man is supposed to love his wife. He's supposed to be the head of the household and following Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
In the corruption of the world, in the history, we've had a lot of families who you didn't have a man who was following Jesus. And, you may or may not have had like women who were abused and things that were happening and they were treated as property, and the same with children and all of that kind of stuff. And out of that, I feel like came this whole, rebellion to that. And there's a part of me that understands that, because regardless of what we're talking about here tonight, like, I don't condone violence against anybody. I don't feel like women should be abused. I don't feel like children should be abused. And I guess I kind of, even though I'm a Christian and there's sanctity in marriage to me, I don't feel like it glorifies God for a woman to live an abusive relationship.
Right.
And I don't feel like that's even something that God wants. And people may have opposing opinions of that, and that's fine. I mean, we can have conversations, but I don't agree with that. But I kind of feel like feminism was birthed out of all of that. And now it's taken to the extreme. And when you sent that thing out, the thing about the third wave feminism, the feminism movement or whatever that was prior to that, it was, that kind of like finding independence for women. And like you talked about not being emotionally dependent on somebody and all of that kind of thing. And then when the third wave rolled around, that's when, they were saying that the second wave was basically created for white women, and the third wave was supposed to encompass women of color. And then it got into that whole gender thing about, being able to identify as this, that, and the other, or whatever. Right. So it's kind of like each iteration of it is kind of like growing into something bigger. I don't feel like, I'm just gonna be honest with y'all. My opinion of feminism was to tear down men. And I know that's not, I know it's not even, I know it's not what it's supposed to be. I know it's supposed to be an empowerment of women, but I feel like
Shelly, no, you're onto something. I think that is exactly what that's for. I think it was to tear down the men. And so it was to tear down the nuclear family, right? So if you have the man out of the picture, now what do you have? You have a single mom with so many children, right? And so where is she forced? And let's just go back into some of the other families, right? As that first and second and third wave goes. What led that was to those women being supported by our government, and now they're ruled by our government, right?
Right.
They count on them for their food, they count on them for their clothing, it's more and more and more. Now we're paying for housing and electrical and all of this stuff. So no, I think you're on the right path there, and I wouldn't backtrack that. I think they started with destroying the male. And so now being manly is not fair, and being manly is not being in charge or being, whatever. Now they want men to be, I'm just going to say it, to be cowards and not stand up and not keep their wives in line. And I say that lightly, because we respect each other's opinions, but
Right.
at the same time, we have to hold each other accountable, right? And so that's how I mean that. But what they've done is they've taken the father out of the picture, and now they're completely taking the mother. And then let's go even further. They're taking women completely out of the picture. And now the U.S. Supreme Court, I'm just going to go ahead and throw this out there. The U.S. Supreme Court in Virginia today came out and said that transgenders are allowed to play on women's sports teams. So, I told my husband about that, and G literally said, he goes, all right. He goes, I identify as a woman, and I'm applying for all the Title IX scholarships. Now my education's free. So now they're taking that away from women too. And so it's just going to keep going further and further and further down that rabbit hole. And so B, what's your opinion on those definitions of feminism? What do you think?
I don't know, this is like tinfoil hat, right? I think that feminism was created by the CIA to divide us.
They did a good job, didn't they?
You know, if you know, additional tax revenue and separation of the husband from the wife, and now the king of the house is no longer the king of the house, but now the government moves in and now they're the king. And as a single mom who, you know, no, doesn't have to have a king in the house to wash his clothes, now I get a king that I have to give, you know, go to work full time to give half my earnings to. And then I get to put my kids in some kind of government school or daycare so that
Well, they're indoctrinated.
do
Yeah.
their part, right?
They
So
get none of your values. They're getting all the daycare's values in
Yeah.
yeah,
school.
I
Yep.
think that it, you know, and I could say that it was probably even way back for, you know, what is the love fest? What was that?
Oh, Woodstock.
Woodstock?
Yeah, love, not war, right? I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
even way
Sex
back
is
then.
free. Don't worry about yourself. Open everything up. Let's forget that you're going to give your husband a rose when you marry him, you know, right? That perfect rose instead of just handing him a stem of thorns, right? Yeah, let's give it all away.
Yeah, yeah. And now there's I forgot what they call it, but like you go out and you sleep with everybody culture. What is that? I don't, it's like they
Are you talking about swinging?
no, the go out and like it now they tell, you know, these young girls that they don't have to be married. They don't have to
Yeah. Yeah.
have a
Oh, yeah.
and they can go out and they can, you know, be with the more the merrier, because that's what they're teaching them these days, right?
Oh,
Because,
free love. Is that what you're talking about? Your husband just posted that.
oh, hookup culture. No, Faith had it right. It's called hookup culture now.
Hookup culture.
They,
Oh, is that the app on there? You
Yeah.
swipe right, swipe left, and that like
Yes.
who you're gonna lay and who. Oh, that's terrible.
that
Mm.
it's awful, you know. And you talk about the divide of the nuclear family. This is exactly where this we've gotten exactly what they fed us. You know,
Yes. Yeah.
we fell for it, hook, line, and sinker. All of those women out there who are, you know, demanding the free rights and putting their fuchsia colored cap on and marching the streets for everything except for, you know, draft, right?
Right.
They want everything except for the draft.
Yeah. Yeah. That I think that was the only argument that I heard. VR, are you in here?
Yes.
Ah, there she is. So what, I don't know how much of this that you caught, but what you want to tell everybody, you know, who you are and what's going on, and then give us some of your thoughts on what we talked about.
I came in during the feminist conversation. I don't really do videos or a channel, but I'm a frequent guest, I guess you could say. But in tandem with what you all have said, what sticks out to me is the irony of the design of the feminist movement. It was all structured and it really wasn't organic. It was against natural values, which I do agree with. And to your point about the nuclear family, those lines are being blurred deliberately. And as much as I am a strong woman, I do believe in some level of gender roles. You know, that we have our strengths and our weaknesses, and we have to work in tandem with each other. So, like, I think about Japan, right? They had a huge influx in the last generation of women entering the workforce. Those women had previously been mom role, let's say, or domestic. Now you see them entering the workforce, and what it's caused is a severe dip in the birth rates.
Mm-hmm.
So now their seniors are about to outnumber their youth, and there's a trade-off there that I'm not sure works for the better good overall, you know?
Yeah. It's just kind of crazy. And, you know, you go back to the Japanese lifestyle over there. It's interesting the way that works. And I don't know if a lot of people know about that culture, but it's very common that their wives are at home and they have a, what do you call that? another gal or whoever they're cheating with, they've a mistress. So they've got that mistress on the side, and that's very common in the culture with no argument. Everybody knows that it's just known that way. So pretty sad. But sorry, G's phone just went off. Didn't mean for that to happen.
Right.
But yeah, so and it's different in every culture. But I just want to know. So we're talking on feminism. Are there good points to feminism? We know there's some bad points, and we can talk on both. But what would the good points of feminism be if there are any? B, let's start with you.
Hey, real quick, you talked about Japan, and they actually, I saw a numbers here recently that said that by 2030, that 45% of women here in the U.S. between the ages of 25 and 40 will be single, which then also lowers the birth rate here in the United States. So this isn't just going on overseas, right? This is going on here too. They've talked about this. It's not a conspiracy theory. They want to lower the population by whatever means, the pokey, right? Or by infertility, or by, indoctrination. When we if a strong woman is not in it for the family, they're in it for the career, then that's indoctrination from the very beginning, right? So
yeah, and a few of us grew up in the 1980s, 70s and 80s, and I remember it was right about I was starting to date, but I was like a rebellious kid. So, I was just doing whatever I wanted to do anyway. Sorry, Dad. And, so I remember there was a lot of talk and a lot of conversation going on that there were more women in the world than there were men. And so we would be lucky to find a husband, and nobody wanted to be that old maid and not be married. So you had to be married before you were 27, 28, or you were going to be an old maid. And so I think they have constantly pushed. And I remember it was really funny because it was my aunt, and she was like the Woodstock and hippie chick and all that. I love her, but God bless her. Bless her heart. And so, but she said when G and I got married, she asked, she goes, so how many children do you want? And I always wanted 5. And I knew how I wanted them. It was going to be boy, girl, boy, girl, boy. And so, I wanted to make sure that the boys were taking care of the girls and everybody was set. And she looked at me and she said, you realize what kind of footprint you're going to leave by doing that? And I looked at her and I said, what are you talking about? And she goes, you're causing pollution. This was back in the 90s, early 90s. G and I got married in 91. And so 91, don't tell him he's on here, but I can't remember, in 93, I don't know. Anyway, so we got together in 91. And so anyway, so we were, talking about that. And I said, what do you mean? And I was just the worst person in the world because I was going to pollute the earth. And how do you pollute the earth? By putting God's creatures on it. I just don't understand that. I'm lost. I'm lost on that one.
Well, even the whole deal of somebody saying that when scripture says, go and multiply, go be fruitful.
Yeah.
I mean, that just really, that doesn't even make sense.
No, it doesn't. But that's kind of where we're going with all this, right? So we hear everything that's coming in from Bill Gates, all the way to some other ones now. Now there's a new billionaire that's the richest person. I didn't quite catch it. Don't really care. So it sent somebody else out and that kind of thing. And these are the things they're reporting on. These are the things that they're worried about. And it's all distractions. And it's distractions that I even have to say I fell for. And so I didn't realize how important it was to make sure, and I feel bad, to make sure that my daughter knew how I grew up, the things that I was taught, what needed to happen. And, thankfully, my grandmother, she put some really good, I'd always go up every other weekend. My dad would drive me up there most of the times to stay with her, and then 2 weeks out of the summer. And luckily, I got to see the way that my grandfather and my grandmother worked together. And you don't always get along, but you always figure it out, right? How much do you love each other? And that's biblical. So I want to ask you another one. What are consequences of a strong or weak woman, and what positives and negatives come from each personality? This is important. So, B, why don't you start with that one?
Wait, so that I what? Whoa, I
Yeah,
didn't hear.
yeah, yeah. So, what are the consequences of a strong or weak woman, and what positives and negatives come from each personality?
Well, I think that you lose some. Well, the nuclear family disappears. I think is a big one, right? Being able to, you know, create a position, create a life for ourselves that our husbands want to be around, right? A lot of us forget that we can nitpick and we can make it miserable for them. And, sometimes they leave.
Right now.
Sometimes they leave the house because they don't want to be around, right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
it's up to us to create that environment that not only make us happy, but they're happy, that our family's happy. There's a flow. There's just a feng shui about the whole thing, right? And it's our job to make sure that that's going the way it's supposed to be going. Are the if we don't have electricity in the house, it's my husband's fault, period. But if the kids are walking around with dirty clothes and stinky feet and boogers hanging out of their faces, then it's my fault. And we just like VR said, we all have roles.
Yeah.
And if I stand up and want to take his roles away from him, then my roles are not being done,
Right.
or they're being half done, or somebody else has to pick up the slack, i.e. the government, right?
Yeah.
If I'm not at home teaching my kids how to read and write, then somebody else has to do that. So creating an environment that allows everybody to work and be happy in is the goal.
Well, and that's how you keep your husband out of the bar, right? And you just make sure you put on something a little sexy, and maybe make sure dinner's on the table when he gets home, and that kind of thing. And you keep him happy. He's going to keep you happy. Everybody's happy. And I know that a lot of the work G does around here, it's not that I couldn't do it. It's just going to take me longer, and he's a lot stronger. He's going to be able to get that stuff done faster. But you guys were building, you figured that out real quick too. And there's just some things that the men can do that, with their strength, that like I said, not that I can't do it. I'll figure out a way. And it's just going to take me longer. So why not just let the men do it? And I don't know, Shelley, what are your thoughts? It's a hard one.
Yeah. So can I go off on something for a second? Do you mind?
No. I'll let you know. Garen said it's like herding cats. So if I heard you back, then.
So initially, again, this is my view, reading scripture and all that kind of stuff. And I don't like to keep going back to the Bible, but I fully believe that the Bible is fundamental in all of this. So like in the very beginning, God created man, and then he decided, and just if you get into researching the the Hebrew language and how all of that was written, he created man, and then he decided that it wasn't good for him to be alone, and he pulls woman out of him, right? And it says before woman was pulled out that he created man in his image. Mm-hmm. So when he pulls woman out of him, then you have these two very different things that were actually, they used to be one thing, and that was the image of God, right? So man and woman together create the image of God, which kind of like drives even as much as like sex drive and stuff. It creates that whole need to come together, and even in that coming together, you create life with God, just like he creates life, kind of thing. So when the world is trying to, I mean, isn't it just like the easiest thing to, all the enemy has to do is break that union, right? I mean, that very first thing, that's all he has to do is break that union. And I kind of feel like, like we blame a lot of stuff on the enemy. And really, he doesn't have to do a lot because we jack up a lot of stuff all on our own, right?
Yeah, we do a good job at
And
that.
I mean, once that union between a man and a woman are destroyed, and not just on the individual level, but on a world level, once that family unit is destroyed, whether it's, feminism saying that you have to get out, you have to go do your own job. And I work a full-time job. Randy works a full-time job. I'm not knocking all of that stuff. I would love to be home working on my homestead all the time, but I'm not, because we have bills that we have to pay. That's all part of the whole thing that's broken everything down, right?
Right.
So I kind of feel like that fundamentally, once that thing is broken, and then of course that turns us against our husband, that we're like, think about commercials that you watch on TV. Like, how many times there was some book that was written back in 2020 or something like that, or 2021, toxic masculinity. Like, what? I mean, when you have that thing that created in the image of God, and what the man and the woman together is supposed to be, then that means there's things that I bring to the table, and there's things that he brings to the table. There's traits that I have, or weaknesses that I have, that he has strengths in those areas, and there's weaknesses that he has that I have strengths in those areas. And those two things together are how it's supposed to be. That's why the marriage is so important.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when you sit and think about it, it kind of makes you spiral out of control, because there's so many things. It's so corrupt. It's just absolutely so corrupt.
It absolutely is. And so I want to go to VR on this as well and see what her opinions are. VR has a little bit different, what is it, Generation X perspective on there. So VR, why don't you tell us your thoughts on this?
I think of the adage, every strong man is a strong woman. And someone said a second ago in the chat, the woman is the helpmate for the man. Well, I'd argue it goes both ways. And we need each other to propagate the species, let alone a nuclear family and setting the next generation out to represent humanity, right? I was raised in an incredibly religious LDS home. And so being fruitful and multiplying was a full expectation. There was no question of what a woman's role was.
Right.
Regardless of my thoughts on that as an adult, a little more balance is helpful with that thought process, because we are not to be enslaved in family, or not held back from actualizing our own talents, right? But using them and lifting each other up is such a huge thing, that I think when we start power struggling and tug of warring between male and female roles, that all of that friction just tears down the whole foundation of what your goals might be together, or for your family, or whatever. So I think women have a quiet perseverance sometimes. We make the joke, some of us do, that if men were left to childbirth, there would be like 7 people on earth. We have the fortitude and the patience and the strength, and sometimes quietness, sometimes loudness, but we are designed to persevere.
Yeah. It's kind of what we bring to the table, right?
Act a little more quickly.
You can hear me because you're in the other room.
No, I can hear you. Because you're coughing.
I keep hitting the mute. I'm sorry. I've got my throat tickles, and so I've been coughing a little bit. And G's coming in. He's like, "Hit your mute, and I'm like, "I did." He said, "I can hear you." Sorry about that, VR.
Oh, all good.
All right. So I find that interesting. So, especially, LDS kind of sounds like a Catholic family. It's kind of our expectations, the 10 children and all
Right.
that. So, but yeah. So, what defines, in your opinion, a weak woman or a strong? I think we kind of went into that, but let's dive in a little bit deeper. So, VR, what do you think about that?
As far as a weak woman, I actually had wrote down, okay, some thoughts on what you had asked.
Hmm.
So I think a weak woman is one who lacks drive to perform their duties as a mother, or in their feminine, not feminist, but feminine roles. Um, Someone who says, not what are you going to do to serve me, but what can I do to serve you sometimes, whether it's your kids or your husband or your community or whatever. It's kind of looking outside of yourself. It's being strong enough to not be ultimately so selfish that you're not participating in what's around you. Also, to me, a weakness comes in not having the fortitude to make decisions. Sometimes we have to make hard decisions. We don't have a choice. We have to, and it's about maybe making the wrong one. It's about recovery. It's about learning and applying the wisdom. And so I think a weak mind, whether male or female, doesn't learn from their mistakes, doesn't stick themselves out there sometimes, out of some of that duty. I don't want to use the word duty in a derogatory way, but we do have duties.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Responsibility, self accountability is a big one to me.
Oh yeah, that's a huge
Integrity.
one. Yeah. Yeah, you got to stand up and walk the talk, right? And so, Shelley, what's your opinion on that?
Well, I kind of with the whole strong and weak thing, it's pretty much, I mean, I kind of feel that way just like VR said, either men or women. But with women in particular, to me what a strong woman does, like things that a strong woman does is we build up other women, we don't tear them down.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
And sometimes that's hard because women can be catty, women can be
Oh, dang.
mean. I mean,
Yeah.
it sometimes, and whether it's jealousy or whatever, those are the things, and it can be the same way with men. Those are the things that I consider to be a weakness, is when, you're not grounded in who you are and what you are, and you're just, if you have to live that life where you're just I, I do in my job. I'm a trainer where I work, and we do this. I have a leadership thing that I'm in charge of, and so every Monday, I don't know if you know who John Maxwell is, but he's like a leadership guru. I just absolutely love him. But he says be a ladder builder and not a ladder climber,
Right.
because if you're having to climb over people to get to the top, that is not, you need to be with those people and building them up. If you can't be the kind of person that builds other people up, then you just need to go be away from me. I mean, I'm just, when I'm trying to teach my girls, we have 5 girls, and when I'm trying to teach my girls how they're supposed to be, build people up, build women up, don't tear them down.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, you and I, we've actually had this conversation a lot. B and I have known each other for years, and she's great at holding me accountable. I'm great at holding her accountable. We have some others in the community that sometimes we have to just kind of say, hey, and we do that and we hope for the best. So, B, what's your opinion on that? And what does that strong and weak woman look like? How do you identify that?
Yeah, I kind of said that already, but you know, uh, a strong woman is, I actually agree with everybody on here so far,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
we we raise each other up, somebody with noble character and that isn't a bully and
but this is the importance of building a community, right? Because you almost have to build that community in order to make these things work. And B, you're right in the middle of that. And
we've had people we've been around people who weren't necessarily of noble character, right? I mean, we can lead by example, and people don't like to be bossed around. We don't like to be told what to do. So we can either lead by example, or distance ourselves from them, because
it's difficult
to surround yourself with.
It's difficult to lead by example, though, isn't it? You and I have had this conversation.
Sometimes doing the right thing is. I have a naughty word that I say right there, but because it is. But I don't think it's hard to do the right thing. We know what the right thing is. We know what right from wrong is.
Yeah.
But we are quick to lash out. We're quick to use our mouths and harsh language. But
the devil with a forked tongue, just kind of comes out.
Yeah. But it's not the right thing to do.
Nope. And so I was going to come in, and the next question was, what role does a strong woman have? But I almost think we've answered that. Do you guys have anything to add to it?
I think leading by example, don't ask others to do something you're not going to do. You know what I mean? You can't be a hypocrite if you're going to be a strong person that stands up for something, whatever it is. Don't expect others to fill some role or shoes or behavior or activity that you yourself are not willing to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I kind of feel like, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I just ended with the statement within reason. We have our limitations, of course.
Yeah. I kind of feel like what you all were talking about with accountability, that's like a big thing in when you put yourself into a community or whatever, having an accountability partner. And sometimes that's not your husband. I mean, sometimes it is, it kind of depends, but sometimes you need somebody else to talk to, but you need that friend who is not afraid to tell you that you're jacking up. You need that friend. And you need that person, like I have a friend that does that for me. And when she does that, she is more than likely going to piss me off. And she knows that. But she also knows that I'm going to go home and I'm going to think about what she said and I'm going to come to grips with what she said, because I know in my heart that friend has the best intention for me. Like, I know that she's not saying that or doing that to be mean. She's saying that because she loves me and she wants the best for me. So I feel like that is a thing that's a trait that strong women have, that they look for those friendships or those relationships where they give somebody that permission to, kind of keep them in line, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Not in a bad way, but, just to be like, hey, Angela, I love you. I love you. But this is what I see, that kind of thing.
That's not how it works here. It's so basically B will see me doing something, or I'll be talking to her about something, and I do it back at her, and I do the same thing for Patty. And so, I'll be doing something and she goes, but let's look at it from this perspective. And then she just kind of goes through that and then lets me know how that is, right? So she's not pissing me off. And then what she does is she goes, now let's lay our head in prayer. I love it, right? You're finishing up with prayer. How do you get pissed off? You just can't. And you're just like, all right, I'm sucking it up. Here I go.
Right.
Change it. So you just teach your friend that trick and you're all good. You don't have to worry about it.
I don't know. I think if she did that, I would be all suspicious because I'm used to the harsh treatment, I guess. She knows how to speak to me, kind of thing,
Yeah. B, what's your thoughts on this?
I think that's hilarious.
Well, it,
What?
you live it. Have you never noticed that that's how you do that?
I
But
just
that doesn't work between you all if you don't trust her, right?
Oh,
Right.
you know what? I trust this girl.
I mean, that's what it is.
Yeah, she's got my back. This is my sister from another mister. So, yeah, no, I would do anything for her, and I know that she would do anything for me. So,
that's what community's about, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So, all right. So let's get. Well, B, you didn't really answer. So you just said it was hilarious. So what are your thoughts on
Oh,
that?
on which part?
Like, you totally forgot what we were talking about, right? That's all right. We'll move on. All right. So here's where we really get into this, and I'm sure we may tick some people off right here, but you know what? This is important, and I don't care. So here it goes. What role does faith play in a strong woman and a weak woman? Because in my opinion, a weak woman has no faith. So these are just my thoughts. And if you have faith, how can you have that strength? Because even the Lord says, if you believe in me, I have you. And right, go back to the beach and only one set of footprints and that kind of thing. So where does faith play in for a weak woman and strong woman? I want to know you guys' thoughts. Shelly, why don't you start here?
I have no strength without Jesus. I mean, I just don't. And one of my spiritual mentors I had when I was younger, she would say, like, if you would praise her, and they have all kinds of things that people say about if you can't receive praise and all that kind of stuff. It's like character flaws. But she would say, whatever good you see in me is not me. It's Jesus. Like, there is nothing. She would say, there is nothing good in me. And I promise you, this woman has never done a thing wrong in her entire life. Like, there's just no way.
Wow.
But he sustains me. He is everything, all of the God names, all of the stuff. And I kind of feel like, I won't say that if you don't have that thing going on that you're a weak person. I can't imagine my life without him. I can't imagine how hard it would be. So that's just kind of where I stand on that.
Okay. All right. VR, how about you?
Well, when it comes to faith, I think there's a tipping point where zealousness makes you weak. I have a family member who is like this, and it has the converse effect of making her strong, because at some point we cannot cast every care on God. We have to get up, pull our pants up, and go do. So I think it comes down to intent. Is your intent to use your faith as a moral high ground or as a moral blueprint? Is your intent to use your faith as something that strengthens you and lifts you up, or as an excuse to not act? Because there are some that do that, and it turns into sloth, ironically. So I think the moral blueprint is what makes you strong, and having some grounding of something bigger than yourself. Because anyone who doesn't have a sense there's something bigger than themselves out there is inherently so sure of themselves, so stalwart that they're weak.
So there's a question that popped up, and B, I'm not cutting you off. We'll come back to you. But Milk and Honey Heritage Farms, she says, what about a woman not raised around any faith and one who has some but limited? Well, so I mean, if you're not raised around faith, I know that you get the influence of society, right? This is kind of what we're talking about, the feminism, everything else that came in and all of that. There's still some signs. I do believe in this. So, you're having a conversation with God, what I call God, but whatever you call him. you're still having a conversation, you get those gut feelings and that kind of thing. You need to learn to trust those instincts and know that that is God speaking to you. And here's where you go in. And I do believe that even those not raised around faith, I do believe that there's a certain point in their journey, in their life, that God leads them to
Yep.
a church or wherever, God has always said, I have you, child, and he's never going to let you go. So he's always going to get you to that point. And if you're not there, you're just not there on your journey yet. I think for the person raised around faith and one who has some but limited. So you have some faith, but it's limited. I would ask why, and then try to figure out where did you get burned, and how come you don't trust that faith. And so we just have to we have to figure those things out. And I'm not that person, and just kind of like VR pointed on. Everybody here is kind of pointed on that. I'm also not one of those persons that I say, okay, well, Jesus is coming tomorrow. He's going to be back next year. Everything's failing, so I don't have to do anything anymore. I don't have to prep. I don't have to do X, Y, Z. I'm not that person. You're always going to gear ahead. And you're always going to look ahead. But I also know that for that person, God is going to draw you, or whatever your God is. God is always going to draw you into where you need to be, where you need to be placed. Now, is that cult? No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about something that a faith that builds you up, makes you stronger, makes you want to be a better person, makes you want to help people, makes you want to help yourself. And a lot of times we have to learn how to help ourselves before we can help other people. And once we figure that out, then we got great, big, huge job, because now not only are we doing one homestead, we're doing several homesteads and helping everybody out. So I don't want to hog this. B, I know that I asked you the other question and I said that I was going to come back to you, but I really think this is a good question for you. So do you want to comment on that?
Which part?
The one, well, both, because it was all in one question, right? It was, what about a woman who did not grow up in faith? And what about a woman who has limited faith?
Yeah.
Is that a weak woman or strong woman? I think that's kind of that question. How do you, so that comes up with another question. So how do you change that? So if you are a weak woman and you want to become a stronger woman, then can you change that identity, and how do you get there? B, let's go with that one. I think that answers that question.
Yeah, I think that if you are not who you want to be in your life, then you need to surround yourself with who you want to be. Because if you surround yourself with who you don't want to be, who you don't like, then that's exactly what you're going to get. That's
what you become. Yep.
Right.
So if you want to be a godly woman, then go surround yourself with godly women or godly people.
Mm-hmm.
If you're hurting inside, if something doesn't feel right inside, if something is off, you have the power in you to change you, and only you. I cannot change any of you ladies. I can only be me and show you who I am. And if you like what I am or who I am, then maybe some of that will rub off. But I think that if you are in a journey in your life where you are not settled, I think you should keep looking.
Mm-hmm.
I think that strength is in service, right? Service is God. God makes it easier. I know weak Christians, right? I mean,
yeah,
you have the power in you to be whatever you want to be. You have to go out and do it. So
Yeah.
if you know no God, if you know nothing about him, but you seek something in your life, you have to go find it, whether it be community or church or a spouse or whatever it be. We have it within us to do it.
Yeah.
You just have to do it.
Right.
Right.
Right. Do you want to do it? And so that's where it goes. But that was one of the things we built our community on here, was making sure that we were all like-minded and making sure that we were able to lift each other up. So we hang around successful people so that we can be successful. We're not hanging out with drugs and all that people, and there's none of that. We don't have to worry about that. VR. So what's your opinion on this one?
I think one of the beneficial facets of faith or surrounding yourself with like-minded people is the fellowship. And you really will only be as strong as your weakest link sometimes.
Yeah.
So surround yourself with people that challenge you, that lift you up, not enable you, but lift you up, and give you some of that connection and that fellowship. I think growing up in the church I did, that was one of the things I took away from it that I will always cherish, is not only the service aspect, but the camaraderie and the community. One way or another, we all have to build that. And some of us might do it through faith-based networks, or, through similar lifestyles, whether it's homesteading or whatever it is you do, so surround yourself with what you want to be, take control of that, and challenge yourself, be sort of touched on this too, challenge yourself to not only be that good example, but if you see a good example, follow it. Don't be so stubborn that you shoot yourself in the foot constantly because you won't change, or you won't put yourself out there to improve your stance, whatever it is.
Yeah. Shelley, what's your opinion on this?
I was not raised in faith. So it wasn't until actually we moved. I'm originally from Indianapolis. We moved to Kentucky when our oldest daughter was 3 years old. So I was like 94 or something like that. And really didn't have a reason to move here. And so I look back over my life now, and every bit of it up until the point that I was saved, every bit of it was steps that God brought me to this place, and, growth through him. So I don't, it's all just like you talked about a little bit earlier. It's all a process. You're on this journey of getting to this place, and it's not, I don't think, I mean, I'm 52. I don't think I'm going to arrive anytime soon. There is so much growth that I still need to do. There's so many things that I still do wrong, and so many decisions that I make that still aren't great decisions, and all of that. And there's so many things I still need to learn. It's just a continuous thing.
Well, thank God we're saved by grace, right?
Exactly.
So, right. So, Faith K, she said, we are here talking about being a strong woman, but how do we help others move from weak to strong if we only surround ourselves with women equal or stronger than us? We've actually been talking about that. And so we don't, I would say, especially in the area that we're in now, and going to festivals and different things, different campouts and all of that, we don't just surround ourselves with women that are equal or stronger than us. I've learned a lot from B. Shoot, I've learned stuff from Shelley. Shelley's a hard worker. We were out at SRF, and she came in and she kicked butt at the vendor tent. I couldn't have gotten done what I did at SRF if it wasn't for Shelley. So we were able to get people fed. The food truck didn't show up, but yeah, we would have ended up having to close down the vendor tent, or not feed people. It would have been one or the other. So I do believe that the more you get into it, the more you keep going. I think God just continues to send you stronger and stronger women. And I think B would agree. And I want to be careful how I say this. In the community itself, there are women that are not on the same page that we are on. There are women, everybody's in a different step in a different way. But that's when it goes back to what B was saying and what we were trying to highlight there. This is how you be an example. This is how you help them. And, I can't remember how many times B and I had this conversation. She's like, I'm just done. And I was like, you can't We have to lead by example. And, we would have this conversation, I don't know, be once a week at least. And so it was just, no, we have to lead by example. Let's keep going. And you have several different ages. You have everybody that's different in their journey and where they're progressing and all of that. And so this is really important that we prepare. Now, does that mean we're perfect? No, we are not perfect by all means. I am not perfect. I have had people that literally they get on the channel and they're like, "You're such a saint," and I'm like, "You don't live with me. You have no idea." No, I'm not, and neither is my husband. And so, but I appreciate that people think like that I am, but I am constantly learning in my journey and constantly, trying to move forward. I think we all are. I think I say that for everybody that's on here right now. It's what we do with that information and how do we help others. Now, we don't force that help on other people. So if there's somebody that comes in and let's just say that they're completely off the map and not exactly right, but their husband is, saying, "Hey, great. We bring them in, but you keep an eye, and exactly, you have to live by example, and that's how you teach without teaching. Because sometimes if you go after somebody and you just shove all that information in their face, they don't want anything to do with you, and they're going to walk away. We don't want that. So I don't know, VR. How would you answer that question?
I'm looking back at what Faith K said. How do we help others move from weak to strong if we only surround ourselves with women equal or stronger than us? My thought on that is that's a function of time. You don't know when you first meet someone. In fact, I have a magnet on my refrigerator that says, "You never know how strong a woman is until she gets into hot water." And it's a tea bag. It's a tea bag on the magnet, right? So never assume that you can see someone that looks like a female berserker, that she's going to be a strong value to your or an asset to your community.
Right.
Some of this takes trial and error and vetting and kind of seeing how you mesh with other people's points of view. But never assume someone is weak or strong. Never assume the loudest person in the room is the strongest person in the room.
Mm-hmm.
The proof's in the pudding, in my opinion.
Yeah. B, what's your take on this? You've got a lot of experience here.
Yeah, I think also when you are strong, you lift up the willing.
Mm-hmm.
And when you are weak, you seek the strong.
Yeah. Shelley, what are your thoughts?
I kind of feel like in your walk with Christ, I feel like prayer is a very crucial part of that. And in a spiritual maturity, and I'm talking about this being a gradual thing, that you just don't arrive there or whatever. You get to this point where if you ask God to send people your way that you can help, he'll do it.
Yep.
I mean, sometimes all you got to do is open your eyes and look around. I mean, it may be the girl that works in the cube next to you. It may be the chick you see in the drive-thru at McDonald's. It doesn't take much to say a kind word, to lift people up and say a prayer for people. And I remember I made another woman that I used to go to church with a long time ago. We were at Wednesday night service and I made a comment about, because originally I'm from Indianapolis and there's a loop that goes around Indianapolis and people drive like crazy. And when I would go home to visit, it was like the minute I hit Indianapolis, I had road rage. Like I was fine till I got to that loop and then I'd have road rage. And Francis told me, he goes, "Well, Shelley, you wouldn't have road rage if you would just pray for all those cars around you." And I was like, "You're absolutely right, Francis. If I could just pray for those cars around me, I'd be fine." So, I mean, it really doesn't take much. It doesn't. If you ask him, he will send you those people.
So, I don't know why. There we go. So Faith Kate came back and she said, "And if you're not Christian, ? Are all non-religious women weak?" I don't know. I just feel like this is more of an isolation conversation than I expected. Well, Faith Key, I'm sorry you're taking it that way because that's not what we're talking about. So you are always going to have you're putting Christian into one bubble, and I don't think you can do that. There's several people you can not be Christian and have faith, and so oh man, this is difficult. I'm going to have problems explaining this, and I hope one of you guys can take this over a little bit better, but I would absolutely say that there's a lot of people, and we've had. Well, let me tell you this: we've had people inside the community that came in as atheists, and we accepted them just fine, and we all helped each other out just fine. Some will leave because they're uncomfortable with what we have to say, and it wasn't that there was judgment. We were just talking, and she literally said, "I didn't realize that this was faith based." And we're like, no, on Sunday morning, we go over and we pray. And we have a little service. If you don't want to come, don't come because everybody is accepted and we want everybody to learn. So I think that's when you take that, and VR is the one that pointed up on that. It might have been Shelley. And I think that when you go in, oh man, so I have to be so careful how I say this. You get those people that are so religious that they cannot accept anybody else. And it's just their way of thinking. And this is the way it is. And believe me, I grew up Catholic. And so then I married Garen. Garen grew up Methodist. And so, that was a mess. He did sign the contract. So we got married in the church and our kids are baptized. So we got that. And, but then we ended up, our son got, he went to church. He asked if he could go to church. He went to a church with a girl down the street. I should have known better at the first point. Next thing you know, I'm getting a phone call, and anybody that's grown up Catholic, you get that phone call from a Baptist woman. And I'm saying it was independent fundamental Baptist. And so I get this phone call that my son accepted Christ and was baptized. Well, he already did that. He had a sacrament. So now you just took away all those sacraments. And so, but then you have to go back and you have to think about that. And so I've been exposed to different religions and all of that. And I've seen many, many churches, the Catholic Church and the Baptist Church and the fundamental Baptist Church. I've seen them all fall apart. And so, there's always kinks in there. So when you start isolating people, I think that's a problem. So I really hope that is not where this conversation is going. I hope that's not how everybody takes what they take out of it, because that is not what this is about. This is about where we are in our journey. It really started out on feminism and the way that society has trained all women to just be one certain way, destroying the nuclear family, that kind of thing. Men's roles, female roles, that kind of thing. So I don't know, Faith Key. Dang, Shelley, can you take this one over?
So, and Faith just made another comment, right? Yeah, right there. Again, like when I say that I was not raised with faith in my family. I was raised by two very strong women. And I know now that they did have faith. It just wasn't prevalent in my upbringing. So I'll go back to what I said before. I can't imagine living my life without my faith. I can't imagine how hard that would be, because the things that have come against me in my life, and times that I've had struggles, had I not had my faith, it would have been so much harder. You know what I'm saying? So to be a strong woman and to not have that faith, that just hurts my heart.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be derogatory. I'm not. I just know how much, I guess, easier I feel like my struggles are because I have him to lean on, kind of thing, is what I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. And so Faith K jumped in with another, she said, I have a lot of atheist friends, and having this type of discussion with them, they won't listen because of God, faith aspect. And then she came back in. It turns them harder towards the open arms of the feminist movement. So Faith K, hopefully you'll go in and catch where we talk about leading by example. And so live your life they'll figure it out. And if you live your life and you lead by example, eventually they'll come over. Spags Unfiltered did it. They'll come over. So,
Girl, it's all about love.
yeah, yeah,
It's not about, like, you don't have to condemn people. You don't
right.
have to tell them the things that they're doing wrong. You just got to love them. I
Mm-hmm.
mean,
Yep.
it's just all about loving them. And
Yeah.
I'm not, I believe in the truths of the Bible, and there's bad stuff and there's good stuff. But ultimately, Jesus he taught us to love people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, Faith K, I have, I have different points of view on this. I'm not a religious person per se, but there is a difference between religiosity and having a purpose-driven life.
Mm-hmm.
And
Exactly.
what you put your faith in, that does matter. It's going to represent your character and your behavior to some degree. That does not have to be, in my opinion, it does not have to be from an organized religion or a specific dogma. There are a variety of beliefs
Yeah.
around the world of very strong people
Yeah.
that come out of that foundation.
Yeah, and we can even go back biblically. It says where two or more are gathered. And so you don't need a brick and mortar church. And what is most of that brick and mortar church? And I'm not gonna lie, I got a bad distaste for a brick and mortar church.
Mhm.
And it started as a Catholic, and it got confirmed as a Baptist. So that brick and mortar, I mean, you want to see corruption, you want to see who's cheating on who, there you go, just go to church. So, or you could do the two or more as God said, and have your own church, and then do a cowboy church. Do everybody get together on a ranch? If you're at camp, just get together on a Sunday morning. You don't need a building for that. B, what are your thoughts on that?
I got a lot.
Lay it on us, B.
We're at an hour and 11, so we probably need to wrap up, but try to get that in there because they're good questions coming in, and I think they need to be answered. So
Yeah, I don't think that you have to have Christianity religious behind a strong woman necessarily, but
mm-hmm.
I think that as humans we come into situations in life that we don't know where to go. We come to crossroads, and we could go this way or we could go that way, and it's the faith that we have within us that guides us to the path that we end up taking. We can all be abusers and of drugs and alcohol and children and all these things in life, but we choose not to be.
Mm-hmm.
I think that you don't have to have God in your life to be a strong woman, but I think that it makes it easier. I think that when you have a problem in your life and you can go to a Bible and you can read a guidance that says, and there's passages for everything
Yeah.
that you come in contact with in your life, money or infidelity or friends or
Mm-hmm.
choices in life. And that's where religion comes in, is it because that guidance, that faith based, helps you get to where you are going. But no, you don't have to have a relationship with God. If you put yourself into situations where these people are religious and you like where they're going, then you're going to follow that path. Sodom and Gomorrah, they were not following a path, they were following
Right.
their own path that made
Yeah.
them happy. But it wasn't where they could go to the Bible and see, oh, we shouldn't be doing this.
Yeah. Well, and that's where you get those cults that come together, and let's look at La Jolla, right? California, the whole compound ended up, going under. They poisoned themselves because the aliens were coming, and this is what they believed. And then we have, Waco and, all these Jamestown, and just a hot mess. So, but whatever makes you happy, go do. Just have discernment, and I think discernment is key.
I think too that, I mean, I know women who are loud and mouthy and disrespectful, and they say, I'm a strong, independent woman.
Right. We need,
And, and we're
right?
like, okay, well, you can go be that somewhere else because
Mhm.
I can't change her. But I can, not go have tea with her,
Mhm.
right?
And
Because that's my
unfortunately,
decision.
that individual, because of that, isolated an entire community that could have gave her support, and maybe that marriage would have worked out. Who knows? Right?
Right, right. But in the end, we surround ourselves with the people that we want to be like,
Right. Right.
and faith helps us to get there easier because there's a guidance there, a moral high ground that some
Yeah.
people lack. Some people don't know right from wrong because they've never been taught it. Some people don't know Christianity because they've never been taught it. Um, but I think that, just like Shelley, if somewhere, some way she was introduced to God in order for her to know who or have her path with him. So at some
Mhm.
point in time, her journey led her to that. So, I grew up with the Bible thumping mom. She threw it in our face that, we were Christians, Sunday Christians. We sped on Sunday to get to church, but we were Sunday Christians, but
You have to be careful with that, and something in my life, and I don't talk about this a lot, but my aunt, her husband, well, they anyway, long story there. They got together, and her husband, um, they ended up separating. He was a Baptist preacher, and they ended up separating. She went up to New York, and the house burned down. And everybody's absolutely certain that he burned it down because he got a speeding ticket. He went from California all the way out to New York, got a speeding ticket in New York so he could be placed there. And she got trapped in the fire and died. And then he continued to rape my cousin and beat her two brothers, my cousins, for dang until she finally caved in and told me what was going on, and my mom immediately got them out at gunpoint. So, yeah, you call yourself a preacher, call yourself a Christian. It's how you live. What are you doing? And so, I don't care what kind of label or education you want to put behind yourself. I just don't. I don't buy it, and I'll never be sold that. So, not to put a downer on this, but yeah, I want to tell you guys, when we're going through it, we're going through it.
Mhm.
And this is the way our lives are. We're not any different from you. We put our pants on same one leg at a time, same way you do. So, we've all had these experiences. But no, if you're a great Christian and you got a good church, good for you. If you're a great Buddhist and you got a great temple, go for it. For me, no brick and mortar, but that's me.
Well,
Anyway, I
Milk and Honey says, do morals and values play a role with no past religions? Absolutely, because
mhm,
you can have the most religious appearing person in the world have zero morals and values. They are not getting out of whatever they have done or however they think. There
that's
is
no
something
joke.
to the nature of the beast. And if you, in your nature, have those morals and values, who you surround yourself with should lift those
Mhm.
up.
Yep.
Because I do also believe there are some straight up rotten fruits, that no matter what robe they put on, there's still going to be a rotten fruit.
Yeah.
So no, I
Yeah.
don't think that's an excuse or a license if you're appearing highly religious, if your behavior does not back that up.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're all sinners, and that's what, I constantly say. B knows. B's around me enough. Shelly's hung around me a couple times, so she knows I'm not perfect. And so, but I thank God that I'm not perfect, and I thank God that Jesus gave His life for me because I'm saved by grace. Now, is that a cop out that I can just go steal whatever I want and do whatever I want? No, no, that's not what it is. I have a goal. I have something that I'm striving towards, but I'm still human. So everybody's still human. And we're all figuring out this journey. And, I've even been told I'm not a good enough Christian because I call God God and Jesus Jesus and not Yahweh. I mean, there's just all kinds of weird stuff everywhere. And I think it's just whatever you're looking at. So I don't know, guys, religion is not where I meant for this to go. It was part of what was supposed to be happening, but not the squirrel that we or the rabbit that we were going to chase. So but we're coming up. We're almost an hour and 20 minutes. I see Shelley's ready to fall over at this point. Can't
Well,
see
I was
me.
going to say something about that comment. The do morals and values play a role? You can have morals and values without religion.
Yeah.
I mean, and the whole religion thing just kind of, I don't know, I don't even like that word, but the morals and values are, they can be taught by parents, they can be learned from society and all that kind of thing. Now, if you have a breakdown in society, which, again, my opinion, I kind of feel like that's happening to our world, then you'll have a breakdown in morals and values, and you'll see that more prevalent in the world around you. And
Yes.
so it's not, I don't feel like that is based on religious beliefs. I think maybe it started out that way, but I don't think that it's that way now. But yeah,
Just
that's my 2 cents.
kind of the guide. We're human, so we're all sinners, and everybody wants to be the lead of something. And I just think that's the way nature takes us. So I don't know, just my opinion. So all right, guys, we're an hour and 21 minutes now, so we keep going up. So any final thoughts? Let's start with VR. What are your final thoughts?
Well, I think this whole religious sidebar that we've taken is one way to describe strength. It's one aspect of it.
Yeah.
But really, at the end of the day, do what you say you're going to do. Be that good example. Raise up your children. Everything we're going through in the world right now, in my opinion, is from the breakdown of the nuclear family. And whether that comes from lack of faith or lack of whatever, I don't know. But that's what it is. It starts in the home, the way that every generation behaves, the expectations in our culture and society, all of that starts in the home. And as we shirk our responsibilities as women to pursue our own earthly delights sometimes, that has a long-term effect. I kind of think of women in that perseverance sense, that we put time in, we put in a long-term strength. And sometimes with men, they are our short-term strength. They are the movers and the shakers and the boom right there. But never forget that behind every strong man is a strong woman, or maybe more than one strong woman, whatever the case, but we need each other. There's no value in trying to supersede the roles of another when we are designed to work together.
Right. Shelley?
Just to piggyback on that, if you feel like you're in a relationship with a weak man, maybe you need to reevaluate how you interact with that man. I mean, because I feel like a lot of times there's a lot of things that we can do to build up that person, that our husband, and
You're
they.
never going to change him. You're never going to change him.
No, I'm not saying that you can change him, but you don't have to tear him down, and you don't have to be a part of that society that tears him down.
Yep.
So that's just my 2 cents.
Yep. B?
Yeah, that was really good, Shelley. I think that, if we sit and henpeck and make a miserable anybody that's around us, then that's exactly what we're going to get, right? We need to be accountable to our own actions and lift up those who are around us, right? We are not equal. We are designed to be complementary towards one another, not be partnership, right? So I think that take accountability for your own actions.
Yeah. I don't know, guys. I think you guys hit it, knocked it out of the park, and super happy about that. And I think that let's support one another, but most importantly, let's support our spouses, and let's make sure that we are thriving, showing values, morals, teaching those to our children, and making sure that we're standing up and we're saying no more with this social BS. and letting the government tell our children how they're going to think.
Mhm.
It's time that we stand up and we do the right thing. We don't do that by picking up guns and saying we're going to kill everybody that's got, transgender issues, or what do they call that? Like you're anti-transgender and all that. It's not how we do this. How we do it is we lead by example, and we go in and we say, no, that's not okay. And now what we're going to do is we're going to teach our children the right way. And we're going to help our sisters and our brothers. And we are going to make sure that everybody is successful and everybody is thriving, because especially in this environment right now, it's important to thrive. And if you're not thriving, I don't know what to tell you. So this is why community is important. So I want you guys to thrive every day. I want you to succeed to thrive. Make your goal to thrive. And however that works for you, what that looks like, that's what I want you to do. So I want to thank everybody in here for joining me. Really appreciated it. It was a good conversation. Slid off the track a little bit, but that's all right. And I'll go back and I'll check the comments and all that stuff and kind of see. But even with it sliding off, it was still good conversation. So I'm glad about that. And until next time, B, what do they do?
Hold the line. Don't give an inch.
Go live a life done free. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Good night.
Well, here in a minute. All right.